And I will, and yes, we will share the slides after the meeting. Is that okay with you, Ms. Chang?
Sure.
Okay, great. Okay, so I will get us started. And I think I started the recording. Let me just, yes, I did start the recording. Well, wonderful. Welcome, everybody. So we are going to talk today about summer before high school applications. Why is it an important subject? It's obviously you're all here. It seems like it's important to you, but also as PTO board members, we have a bit more visibility into various stages in different grades, namely how stressful the high school applications period of November through December seems to be. The common refrain from parents who have gone through high school applications with their kids is to use the summertime before the high school applications wisely. This is why we reached out to our experts in high school applications, Chang Learning Center, and the teachers and administrators at IS 187 to create this session. So how can you use the time in the summer wisely in order to do as much ahead of your high school applications as possible? So with that, let me introduce our experts. So the most of this presentation material will be delivered by Ms. Chang from Chang Learning Center. Chang Learning Center is a longtime supporter of Krista McAuliffe. They have generously donated their expertise at the sessions like today and also earlier this year. They did a session for some of your kids, how to get organized. They have also generously donated monetarily to us and supported us as a gold sponsor at the gala. Thanks so much for your continuous support. We also have here Ms. Foresyth, our assistant principal of special education and ENL, Ms. Ng, who is a facilitator of Academy of Business and Law. She leads, is my understanding, the SHSAT prep program at IS 187. I didn't actually see, I'm not entirely sure if Mr. Scheiner was able to join. I know he is actually on sabbatical, but he was kind of reviewing our materials. Oh yeah, he is here. Wonderful. Thanks so much thanks so much for joining us for your sabbatical, Mr. Scheiner. And Mr. Hederman, who is the program director of NIA at IS 187, and NIA is leading SHSAT prep program as well for kids at our school. With that, I'm actually going to pass it over to Ms. Chang, and we will basically, the experts, will be weighing in as she goes through her content. I will keep an eye on questions in the chat room. We will make it, casual and interactive.
Thank you so much, Marina. Thank you for having me. So these are just suggestions. We are, myself, Lily Beth, as a former teacher and a director of a community learning center, it is our job to support schools and to help as much as we can and contribute to the community. So everything that we do from McAuliffe, it is with all our pleasure, and we do it every year if we can. So without further ado, these are just suggestions that we have seen work with our students. We have been serving the community for 20 years. We have tried different things. We have been able to see what works with students and what doesn't. So this is a little, this is a little chart that we find that works with students. So during the summer, it's such a crucial time for students to really get their things done, check off things as much as they can, so that during their, so that when they start 8th grade, they don't feel as nervous, right? They can spend their first 2 or 3 months of their 8th grade weeks, free time, preparing for the SHSAT or really focusing on school. So a lot of times in the summer, our students would research, right? So you start your research on whether you want to apply to a specialized high school or a Catholic school or an independent school, or maybe you want to look into superintendent programs and honors programs in neighboring schools. Okay, so that's one thing you can do. And then this is just a summary of everything, and I'll go thoroughly one by one. It's also an opportunity, the summer is also an opportunity for you to reach out, right? So go out and find programs of your interest, volunteer, find yourself a mentor, right? Yes, we're only in 7th grade, we're 8th graders. How can we possibly find a mentor, or how can we get more involved in the community? So I'll go more into that later on. Most importantly, the summer is a great time for students to refine their skills, right? Are you trying to audition for school and you need to refine your dancing skills? Or are you trying to get into a math program and you want to spend the summer really perfecting your math? Or finishing your portfolio, right? Your art portfolio, or perhaps you want to finish writing your essay, right? Or become a better writer, or like most kids, most of our kids, they prepare for the SHSAT. And there are 2 ways to do that, right? On your own, for free, at no charge, or you can also have, you can also sign up for a school, a summer school, a summer program where there is a charge for that, right? And there are plenty of those out there, not just ourselves. And then another item that students seem to focus on during the summer is they read. I know it sounds redundant. A lot of the kids don't want to hear it, but oftentimes for the SHSAT, the students actually are, students who are exposed to different genres tend to do a lot better on the reading comprehension part of the SHSAT, right? And also this is a time for you to recharge before September, right? You're ready, you're cleaning your desk, you have everything in order, and then you're ready to go in September and you're well rested mentally and intellectually, right? Mentally and physically. So that's that. Researching schools, right? There are different types of schools: specialized high schools, Catholic schools, independent schools. There are honors programs at neighborhood schools as well that are just as great. And a lot of times parents always ask me, okay, Lilybeth, you've been here for 20 years. You've seen different schools, you've worked with different schools, we are a DOE vendor. So a lot of times we, go into schools and we give workshops or we do classes, and the parents are like, which one is the best school? And I'll say, there is no such a thing. There's no such a thing. It's what your child makes out of it, right? It's what fits your child the best. So research is the best thing they can do. And also research is not research if they don't keep track of it, right? So here's a link to, these are some of the useful link and some of the places where I got, certain information from, which I'm sharing at the end of the slide as well. So here is for specialized high schools, there are 9 of them. And I'll go through this really quick because I know a lot of parents are already familiar with this. 8 of them require that you take the SHSAT. And 1 of them, which is LaGuardia High School, requires that you audition for it, right? So you have to actually take the SHSAT to be considered in order to apply to the specialized high school. And then you need to take the, you need to sign up to audition for LaGuardia, right? And then you can do it up to 6 programs. You can audition up to 6 programs, which is amazing, right? Because a lot of our students would, let's say, audition for other schools for middle school, and they only were able to try for 2. So that's that. And this is a time where they spend the summer, let's say, perfecting their choreography or perfecting their portfolio, right? Let's say. Then there are other schools that are Catholic schools, right? And these are only some, these are not all of them. These are only a few. In order to apply to Catholic schools, you need to take the test, which a lot of students find slightly easier. Well, much easier than the SHSATs, right? But then again, it's, from their point of view, a lot of times we tell the students, take a look at the sample test. Everything is online. Everything is on their website as well. A lot of these schools, like for example, I know Xaverian is a high school that has scholarships that give students scholarships as well. Good and bad, we have students who make it into specialized high school, and then they also score full scholarship for Xaverian, right? So that's when they sort of have to weigh out, okay, do you like the school? Does it fit your interest? Is this the school that you want to spend 4 years of your life at, right? So that's that. Xaverian does give scholarships. I'm not sure about the rest of the schools, but that's something to keep in mind, right? So yes, these are not free schools. You have to pay tuition, but they do have scholarships. Let's see. Then there are independent schools, which all of these, the tuition is over $55,000 per year, except for Regis High School. So Regis High School is tuition free. Something to look into. It's tuition free. But then again, when we're looking into these schools, there are other factors to consider, right? These are prestigious schools, these are great schools, but does it fit your interest? Not only that, but something else that we're doing research, right? Something else to consider when we're doing research is we tell our students to keep a chart. You go visit the schools. By the time you visit the second or third school, you already are sort of like, okay, I don't remember the first school anymore, right? So it's important that, they have this chart where they put the name of the school, what are the requirements, whether it's an SHSAT exam that they need to take, whether it's portfolio that they need to have. Also, I think it's really important, which I put as the second column is location, right? We have a lot of students who make it into Bronx Science, but they live here in Brooklyn, right? They live in Bay Ridge, they live here in Dyker. And for them to commute all the way there, it's hard. It's hard for them. They still do it, but something else to consider. And then they'll say, oh, I wish I thought about it. So I think it's nice to have a chart. Tuition, is it free? Is it half? Are you able to get a scholarship? Is it $55,000 a year? And with $55,000 a year, that's almost college tuition, right? It's just something you want to save up for later on. And I think the average SAT and ACT scores are really, really important, right? So students who graduate from this high school, what's their average SAT scores, right? Of course, a lot of it has to do with how much you study as a student, right? How focused you are as a student, but a lot of it has to do with how they shape you, their curriculum, right? The way that they support you as a student. So it's teamwork, right? It's the student doing all of their work, it's the parents being involved, and then it's also great teachers and great staff at the school. So that's something to consider. Is everybody from this school graduating with an average of 900 on the SAT scores, right? So, or are they getting 1450? So that's something else. Last column is notes and highlights. Was there something about the school that stood out to you, right? I really like X and Y, and I think this is a deal breaker or this is a deal maker, right? So something else to consider, deal breaker or deal maker. You can add on more columns. So this is just an example of what our students use, and it has been very helpful. Also, everybody has an iPhone. Everybody has a smartphone. Take a picture, save it, insert it in there because that'll refresh your memory, right? So you don't get as overwhelmed. When there's time, when it is the time to make a decision, you look at this chart and everything will come back, okay? Let me know if you want me to stop or slow down. Okay, so research the schools, right? The next thing you can do is reach, right? Reach out to different organizations. For example, learn more about what you like, or throw yourself out there. A lot of things that we tell students is you have a 99 average in your transcript. Your scores are perfect, but where's the extracurricular? Like, are you well-rounded, right? If I throw you out there in the world, would you be able to survive, right? So a lot of times we tell the students, you know what? Also spend the summer finding volunteer opportunities. You can do it at a local library, right? You can just walk into a local library and ask if they need volunteers. Or you can also reach out to large organizations, right? You can find a mentor, right? You can find a mentor by reaching out to by going to high school websites, and you find their email addresses. For example, not all high schools have email addresses for teachers or clubs, but I know that Brooklyn Tech High School, there is, if you click on student life, you can actually pull up all of their school clubs, after school clubs, and there's a contact number there, and you can reach out to them as a student and say, hey, I am a middle school student graduating soon, and I would like to get in touch with one of your students. I don't think any teachers would say no, right? So that's that. New York Math Circle are those who are for students who love math, right? They actually have classes inside NYU. They have summer classes, and the way that they shape their curriculum is amazing. So this is by one of our friends, Lauren Zimmerman. He's the one who started the New York Math Circle, and he's actually a retired math teacher from Brooklyn Tech. But, you can just Google New York Math Circle, and then everything will be, you can pull up everything for you. Something else that you can look into are large organizations like Apex for Youth, right? Or New York Cares. You pull up those websites and they have different programs. They have sports, they have volunteering programs, they have mentorship programs. That's where you can find a mentor, right? Somebody you can shadow, not forever, not somebody that you want to sort of like follow for life, but maybe spend the summer with, right? Okay, so I aspire to be an attorney. So perhaps you can find a mentor who's an attorney, and you can shadow them for a summer and say, this looks like something that that interests me and I can actually find a school that has similar programs, or this is not for me, right? And a lot of times it's nice to have like a big brother and a big sister who sort of like walks you through life a little bit, right? So that's that. By no means I work for these organizations. I did volunteer with some of them, but something for you to look at. Okay, so that's that. Next, how can I better myself? This is the best time to refine yourself, refine your portfolio, make it perfect, work on it. This is a perfect time for you to practice your piano for that recital that you're looking forward to, or better yet, to improve your writing. Plenty of resources out there. We have the internet, we have smartphones, we have Khan Academy. You just need to be able to have the motivation to do it, right? Have plenty of writing resources out there. All you have to do is just Google it. Typing anything on the internet, believe me, you'll find books that are in a full PDF, right? With lessons and answer keys and whatever you're looking for, you will be able to find it. And another thing that you can do, if you like, is prepare for the SHSAT. Prepare for the SHSAT. Before we move into that, let me show you what Ms. Badia sent regarding portfolios. Okay, now I'll share these. Since we're emailing these slides out, then I won't go through that, but I'm sure she sends them out to all of her students. Okay, this is some of the information along with the checklist that she included. It's all here in the presentation. So that's that. Okay. So
yeah, maybe we just pause just a little bit. If you can go back to that slide.
Yep.
12,
If
so
I
that-
could speak for a second, I spoke to Ms. Badia today. Hi, everyone. So she actually opened it up now. She's been doing it for a few years now. And so the portfolio class is just open to 8th graders, but they kind of get it started now. So if students are interested, they should let her know as 7th graders, and she could give them some tips on what to work on over the summer to have it ready to get going for next year. I might also know, I don't know, I didn't see it in the slides, but Mr. Kaplan, our theater teacher, does this as well. If you're interested in auditioning for drama or musical theater at LaGuardia, he starts speaking with students now. So I would reach out to him as well if you'd like to be interested. And he does, so they both do a program basically one day a week throughout the fall until students have their portfolios due or their auditions take place. And if they need additional help as it gets closer, they're more than willing to help out with stuff like that. So I would say this is your best bet. Even if you're thinking about it, reach out to Ms. Badia or Mr. Kaplan in the spring of this year. All right.
Great, thank you very much. Yes, I'm going to put the email for Mr. Kaplan into the chat.
Thank you. Okay, those, and then this is the portfolio checklist. I'll leave it here for a minute. And then if you have material from Mr. Kaplan, I can insert it into the slides before sending it out back to you, Marina, the final version, so that when you send it to parents, they have the full everything in one place. Up to you.
Okay, great. Yes, we'll figure it out. Thank you.
Okay. Okie doke. So SHSAT prep, this is something that, yes, they can do on their own, right? You can prepare for the SHSAT. You can spend the summer preparing for the SHSAT. There are free resources out there. Again, if you go to the library, they do have SHSAT test prep books. I know, I went and I saw. And I couldn't believe how much money I was spending on SHSAT books when I can borrow from the library. But anyway, so it's there. There's the internet as well. And then also the DOE has handbooks, right? And these are handbooks that are given to, I believe, 7th graders before they leave for the summer. I've seen it. I know IS 187 does it. It's given to the students. These books are physical books, but they are also found online. Okay, so you'll be able to find these handbooks. And I think these are the best you can get. Why? Because these are it contains two full mock exams for students, and it also contains little explanations and it does have explanations for each question, but it also gives you an overall explanation of the test. Okay, so lots of tips there that I think are very useful for students. And I included the websites here. So that's that. Or let's see. Oh, so use those handbooks, right, to prepare, take mock exams. There are also test prep programs that you can use, which that you can sign up for, which are either intensive classes, or you can reach out to different learning centers that offers free mock exams, right? We do offer them. Princeton Review does too, and City Smarts does too. So check in with them. I don't work for them. I only work for Chang's, but I figure it's just, I want to be fair and throw them in there. So thank you, Marina, for that.
Right. Just to kind of intersect, we, this is not by no means an exhaustive list. It's kind of, what we collectively like surfaced. So there are probably other resources. We did have a session with Princeton Review, covering what they can do, but basically, like, this is just from kind of like through the grapevine of like information. We know that these ones are available, here, and it's possible that other are available too. I don't know if Ms. Chang, if you will be covering this. But when you go through these books, for example, is there like a program that you have in mind, like for a week, do like 45 minutes a day of like classes, and then take a mock test like once every 2 weeks, or once every 3 weeks, or once every week? Like, is there a recommendation for a formula for that prep with these materials?
So a lot of times we tell students there is no golden formula. The way that we have been doing it is we spend an entire seventh year school year with the students. Every Saturday they come in here for 3 hours and we teach them the SHSAT material. So then they spend from September to June, right, of their 7th grade year with us every Saturday. And each Saturday we cover one full math topic and one full ELA topic, right? And then periodically, every 2 months, about every 2 months, they take a mock exam, right? They take a mock exam where teachers will go over the next week and say, okay, these are some of the testing strategies that you can use, or these are some of the things that I saw that you guys can perfect on. So that's a 7th grade year. Now, in the summer, right? So we spend an entire 7th grade year covering topics, because we want students to know the material, right? Once they know the material, then 7th grade summer, meaning the summer that they finish 7th grade, we spent an entire 7 weeks, right? 7 weeks doing intensive topics, meaning we find the most challenging problems for those topics, and we find the most challenging articles, or the most boring actually, and then we cover those during that 7 week. And then 8th grade, they only have about, I want to say 8 or 9 weeks before they take the actual SHSAT. By then, we're not teaching them content anymore. We're teaching them how to run with it, right? We're teaching them how to perform with accuracy, speed, how to, use their test taking strategies. A lot of times we don't focus so much on like sort of like hurry up and finish the test until their 8th grade year. Why? Because we want them to spend time, right, taking in that material and really internalizing it, and sort of like knowing the material before they can use shortcuts. In 8th grade, we teach them all shortcuts. We're like, oh, by the way, the problem that you spend 5 whole minutes doing, let me show you how you could do it in 30 seconds, right? Because you only have 30 to 45 seconds per problem. So that's when they say, oh, it makes sense for them then, because they already know the material and they can use a shortcut. We can't teach shortcut before they know the material, because then it becomes a little bit like, okay, they can't connect the dots, right? So that's that. Is there a special formula that we tell students to use? Not really. That's why when they come in, we give them a mock exam and we sort of like take a look at where they stand and say, okay, it makes sense for you to spend time doing X or Y. Or sometimes we get students who score really, really nicely on the mock exam. We say, okay, whatever you're doing is fine. Just hang on. We'll see you in a few months right before you take the exam, and then we can polish you up. But for now, keep practicing on your own, right? So that's that. And then I have a breakdown. Did I answer your question, Marina?
Yes, you
Okay.
did. It's, it's my understanding that mock tests, mock exams are quite important, because you do build stamina as well. Just kind of practicing taking them is also, very good. And I know that you are going to go more into that stamina later. Yeah.
They do that every 2 months, our poor kids, and then they do it in person. And then we built, so our portal, we have a portal where they can actually log on and do it as well. So our kids have two options, do it online and do it in person. Some of our kids would do it in person. And then after we review the test, they'll retake the exam, the same exam online. So I think that's the plus for using technology to our advantage, and it's been working out really well. So that's that. So here's a breakdown of the questions of the SHSAT. It's 3 hours, it's 114 questions. Only 94 questions are scored, and the other 20 are just there for research. So, ouch, right, for poor kids, but we don't know which 20 those are. So obviously they have to do all 114. So 57 questions for math, 57 for ELA. For math, there are 5 questions where they have to fill in the boxes, right? And then for ELA, and then the rest are multiple choice questions. And then for ELA, they have revising and editing questions. And they also have the reading comprehension, which is 6 passages. And it ranges between, I think, 6 to 8 questions per passage. And these passages are not the most interesting passages. It's not something our kids can relate to. It's not something that even I can relate to. I have a master's degree in teaching, and these articles are not the greatest. So here we go. These are some of the things that they're looking for, right? They want you to show understanding, right? You need to be able to understand, analyze, and interpret different types of text. Okay, so different types of text. This is similar skills that they're looking for in the 7th grade curriculum, right? You need to be able to read an article and show understanding and be able to analyze and interpret them, right? So these are some of the things that these are the types of text that they will be giving you on the test: informational, scientific, historical, and poetry, right? Poetry is a new thing that came in the past 3 years, and this is something that kids are like, whoa, poetry, I can't. It's so short, but they just can't get it. But with practice, they'll be able to, they're able to do better. And then types of ELA questions, it's the same thing over and over again. Main idea, detail, inference, vocabulary. What's different is the way that is worded. But these are 4 things that they get tested on the statewide exam anyway. So what's different is the article, right? What's different is the text. It is some really boring text, okay? Which this is why I want our students to read during the summer and build their stamina, okay? So here is a chart of the types of readings, the types of genre here, which will be sent out to you. And then you can find the entire guide here on the link, okay? And then here we go. Prepare for the SHSC on your own. You know that the ELA questions are aligned with the 7th grade learning standards. They really are. What's not the same, again, is the boring articles. Why is it so hard? Because our poor students can answer questions that has to do with main idea, but if they don't understand the article and it's an article that they cannot relate to, it's just impossible for them, right? So a lot of times we tell them, okay, expose yourself to these articles, learn how to understand these articles, learn how to keep your focus, right? These articles are not too long, but they're not short either. And by the time our students read the second column, they're like, okay, that's it, I lost it. What is it, right? So we teach the students strategies. Okay, mark the reading. Okay, stay focused. Yes, they are 7th graders now, right? They might not be able to get through the entire article in 9 minutes, fine. But I think with time, right, they'll be able to do it, meaning that they should start now, right? Even if they spend, 20 minutes on the article, it's okay, it's all right. We don't need to rush them now. We want them to really understand and keep their focus. And then over time, that 20 minutes becomes 18, 15. Right, 10, and then eventually they'll be able to, okay, this article is not the greatest article and I can't relate to it, but guess what? I understand it. I know what it means, okay? So practice editing paragraphs and sentences. You need to recognize and correct language errors. You need to make the writing piece better overall, right? They'll give you the editing passage, the editing paragraph, and you need to be able to fix certain things, okay? And that has been a little bit hard for students, but once they learn all these skills, they're able to get it like this. That's where they score points easily. Have strong math skills, right? So that's something that kids, they learn a lot of the students, especially at McAuliffe, they're taking Algebra 1 already, right? Which is great. But a lot of times, sometimes they forget the little things, right? They forget what, consecutive integers are, or what is an integer. So a lot of times going over these skills during the summer is very, very helpful. The way that our lessons are shaped is every week they learn one topic, and we break down everything for them. So everything's in detailed, everything is boxed, everything is visually there. So it seems to work out really well for students.
Ms. Chang, can we go to slide 17 for a second?
Yes.
There are some questions on this. This is Ling Fei and Chloe. Do you have specific questions on this slide? You both asked for it. This is basically the types of texts that you would be getting in the ELA section of SHSAT test.
Yep. So the types of articles, you might get an essay sometimes, you might get a biography sometimes, a biography of somebody who kids don't really care about, or they've never heard about, or somebody who's not so interesting, right? They might get memoirs, which are a little bit hard for them to read, and journalism articles are challenging for them as well. So a lot of these, as you can see, I mean, personal essays are okay. Historical and scientific articles could be a hit or miss. Some of our students love these articles, and there are others who really struggling with it. But
yeah, I think the people take screenshots. We just went fast through this slide, but we will also share slides with everybody, so don't worry about taking screenshots. But yeah, sounds like it's understood now.
Okay, moving on. So that's that. These are some of the books. So once you go to our not a supporter of Amazon. I don't work for them. I don't work for any of these publications either. But if you go to Amazon, you type in SHSAT publications, you find a lot of books there. Okay, a lot of books, and a lot of them we bring them into. We buy them. Yes, we buy a lot of these books, and then we have our teachers analyze them. And some of them are better than others. Some of them are more thorough than others. But do keep in mind that these books are not errorless. Okay, these books are not like we had Lauren Zimmerman, who's a retired math teacher. He wrote the questions for Barron's. He wrote the SHSAT questions for Barron's, and he's our mentor. He's our friend, and he helps us with the SHSAT curriculum. And a lot of times, I remember me showing him 2 new books. I came and said, "Oh my gosh, Larry, look, these are 2 new books. Take a look. Tell me what you think." And he was so upset. He said, "I cannot believe they published this. I cannot believe they have this in the market." Right. So just keep in mind, bottom line is keep in mind that these books are not perfect. So take what you can out of it. And then if it's an error there, just make sure your child knows and is aware, right? Some of their math definitions were not exactly right. Okay. And some of their answer keys were also not right either. But then again, Larry's very, very meticulous. Like, he's very specific about things. And then he's his passion for like SHSAT is just like no other. So that's that. So these are some of the books.
Ms. Chang, do you have a favorite among these books?
I'm biased. I love Barron's books because Larry wrote them.
Oh, do we have a Barron's book on this?
No, I didn't put it in there. But if you type it in on the on Amazon, you get a plethora of books. Do I have a favorite? I do like to go with bigger companies that have editors that, I mean, I know these companies work hard. I know these companies, a lot of them are self-published. And when you go with a smaller publishing house, it doesn't go through the quality control that it would in a bigger publishing house. Like, for example, Barron's, Larry worked with another 2 writers, and then he had 2 editors, and then he had somebody else who formatted the book for him. So it goes through different departments, and then somebody will be able to spot the mistakes, right? Or the errors. I think Kaplan's a huge company. Am I a supporter of big companies versus, like, I am a supporter of like small shops, mom and pop shops, but when it comes to books and publishing, I think you want somebody who has all that, who goes through all those steps, right? I'm sure Kaplan has different writers, and they also have editors as well, who looks through all of this, and also fact checkers, right? People who check for facts. So that's something to keep in mind.
Great. Mr. Hederman, Ms. Ink, do you have, I know that you also run the SHSAT prep in the school. Do you have favorite books for kids to work independently?
Yeah, I actually really like the Barron's book, and that's the one that I recommend that students use during my program, only because we have like 4 or 5 weeks for it. So it's a much shorter book than the Kaplan book, which we've used in the past as well. It's very straightforward. And especially for the math portion, I do like all of the practice exams they have in it, plus those individual areas where they can focus on key topics like statistics and probability, which is always a big problem for them, and also geometry.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
So yeah, we've been using the Barron's for a little while now. We also we got into Kaplan for a little while because one year we actually went through their whole program where they ran this thing for students, but unfortunately they're not even offering that anymore. They only do the book and then they're only into SAT now. So that's no longer, can you get the book and also get the online help? But I do believe something that they might still have, if you've maybe already taken a class or you feel like you've gotten all the material down, I think they might sell a book of just exams so that it's not teaching the material. It's just like 20 exams and you could just go through them at your own pace and stuff like that if you're already at that level.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, 2 people recommended the Tutorverse, the very right book, like that book to me recently. I don't know if you've used it, but yeah, okay.
This is the Barron's book. I think the latest one should look something like this. So I think it's.
Yes. I just put a link and that looks like that. Yes, and into the chat. Wonderful.
So that's that. So Larry stopped writing for Barron's and started writing for Chang's. Just throwing it out there. But the material is good, and his Barron's materials are very good. Larry's materials are very good. Last thing, so the Big Fat Middle School Math Workbook, it's great. A lot of our students use it. It's not specifically for the SHSAT. However, I think it's a great book for students to refine their math skills, right? Refresh their memory and really practice. And a lot of times we don't believe in cramming. It's not like, okay, a lot of parents come in and say, how many mock tests do we need? No. We're not doing that. We need to make sure that your child knows the material and then takes the mock exam. It's not about cramming and then regurgitating the material on the actual test because it doesn't do them any justice, right? So the way that we do it is it's more of an enrichment manner, and then we want students to learn the skill. Okay, but these are okay books. These are great books. Questions? Okay, I'm very biased. I love Barron's books. So next slide. Explore different genres and types of reading. Kids become a better reader when they read different types of genre. A lot of times, oh, but my goodness, they don't want to read. Okay. I do like the New York Times. I think those articles are very well written. I think the vocabulary there is amazing. And I think it's a great way for your child to spend, let's say, 10 minutes every day reading just one article and really understanding it. Just pick any article. Pick the most boring one. Pick the ones that do not interest them. Pick the one about, I don't know, global warming or well, no, I'm sure they're interested about what's going on currently. If you give them an article about a fire that's happening in Canada, they'll get it right away, right? Their understanding it's really, really it's funny because when I taught literacy, I learned that when you give a child a book, right, a text on something that they're interested in with a topic that they love, their understanding level their reading level goes much higher than compared to something boring that you give them, right? So my child could be, the student, if I'm doing reading records with them, they could be level, I don't know, D. If I gave them, these little kids could be like level D if I gave them a book on dinosaurs because they love it. But then later, if I gave them a book on, I don't know, like a nonfiction book on a person, it could like jump down to like B or C. Like they have they don't show any understanding of the reading, right? So bottom line is, if it's something interesting, the understanding level is much higher, right? So we don't want that. We want students to understand the article, right? Understand the reading, whether it's something that they love or they don't, right? Whether it's something that they can relate to or not. So I think spending 10 minutes reading one full article in the New York Times could help them build stamina, could help them build vocabulary as well. But to really, really prepare for the SHSAT, our students spend 3 hours each day, a few times a week during the entire school year before the SHSAT. Then again, we also need to outweigh their schedule and their agenda, right? We want students to be able to juggle their schoolwork as well, not abandon their schoolwork and then just focus on the SHSAT. Okay, so that's that.
Yeah, I think somebody recommended like 45 to 50 minutes a day of reading passages, from like those handbooks. So I think maybe 10 minutes from New York Times. And if you really are planning to take this test, then spend 45 to 50 minutes reading passages from the handbooks that it sounds like Krista McAuliffe will give us, right, for the summer. So, getting used to reading those articles.
Yep. And I mean, parents, keep in mind that we can't expect our students to just sit there automatically for 3 hours. They won't, right? They also need to build that stamina. We can't set them up for failure either. As a parent, I'm not going to go ask my son and say, hey, guess what? You're taking the SHSAT in 10 months. So let's go and start sitting in your desk for 3 hours every day, starting now. It won't happen, right? So we need to build that. I would say, okay, let's start off with 20 minutes today. Let's start off with 30 minutes the next week, and then you build it up from there. And also, they're building a muscle. They're building a stamina. They're a stamina muscle. It's not something. It wouldn't be fair for us to expect them to just sit there, right? It's different when they're sitting here at the Learning Center for 3 hours because there are lessons that we give to them, right? It's a class, they're interacting, they're being with other peers. There's a smart board that they're looking at, right? Like, for example, our math teacher loves his smart board. It's like he cannot survive without it. Like, the first thing he does when he comes here is plug in that smart board. And then it's great because the students come in and they get to hear his lesson, they get to see his lesson on the paper, and then they get to visualize it on the smart board. So that's really, really helpful. And for them, 3 hours, it could be a little long, but it goes by really quick, right? It's an hour and a half of English, an hour and a half of math. For our students, if they're self-studying, it wouldn't be fair for us to say, all right, Billy Bob, sit down and let's start now. It wouldn't. I mean, a lot of times you also need to keep in mind that they have a busy schedule. These are preteens, these are teenagers, they have better things to do. And there should be a motivation to it, right? There should be. We had a parent who came in and said, okay, I don't care if my son likes it or not, but I'm going to sign up for your class, and then he's going to do it. The child showed up every day. It was so miserable for him. We talked to him, we talked with him, we explained to him, we sort of try to understand where he was coming from. And then this is something that it wasn't for him, right? So that's when we have conversation with the parents and say, I understand you sign him up. I understand that you want him to do the program, but this is not something he wants. He's miserable here and he's not getting anything out of it, right? So then we came up with a different plan, right? We came up with something where we say, okay, you know what? Let's walk him through, let's give him the material and let him work on his own. And a lot of times kids can, right? So you need to know your child, you need to understand your child, and don't force your poor kids. I mean, yes, being a specialized high school is great, but just because you didn't make it to STI doesn't mean that you're not going to make it to Harvard, right? So, I mean, my brother, he wouldn't be happy if I share this, but he actually went to John Dewey High School and then he went to Harvard. So it's sort of like, I always tell people that because it's like, it's not the end of all, like it's fine. Do we want our kids to be surrounded by specialized high school kids? Yes, we do. But then that doesn't mean that they won't be successful elsewhere. We just need to give them the right tools. Does that make sense? So that's that.
Right. Mr. Scheiner had a comment that kids should have a template of questions that they should ask when reading the articles, which are similar to what will be asked on the test.
Yeah, the reason being, there are certain types of questions that are asked on the SHSAT. So after they read the article, if they get used to answering those type of questions that they're going to face, they could get the mindset that they need for when the test actually comes. Because if they just read and they read holistically, they're not really, identifying the key details. They might not be connecting the paragraphs. And the other suggestion is that they need to model the same situation they're going to be in the classroom. They should be quiet. They shouldn't have the TV on when they're working. It should be exactly the way the setting will be when they take the test. So that's what I always suggest to them. If you're going to do practice at home, make sure that you're modeling exactly that setting that you'll be sitting there so you're used to it.
Oh, great advice. Thank
Sorry to
you.
interrupt.
Is there, no, this is not no interruption. Again, we all can kind of chime in. Is there such a template of those questions? Like, does it exist? Is there like a resource where we can pull that?
I personally, I work for A+, and I formed a template that I give my students
Mhm.
where I have them, if I tell them, okay, and I think that's a great idea with the New York Times. I tell them it has to be a credible site, you know, I have them work with inference questions, those global holistic questions like summarizing or central idea, theme questions, and then they'll read and they'll work on their own. They work independently. Like I don't check the work, but I at least let them, I give them the template and they let me know if it's working for them or we could sort of modify it as we go. But I could provide my students that I work with, I could provide them with a template.
Okay. Well,
I'll
let
put
me
it
know if
on
you
the
want,
Google Classroom.
let me know if you want me to throw them in here, and then we'll just insert it into the PDF. So what our ELA teachers do is on the mock exam, right, towards the end, when they review the mock exam, she'll make them, or they'll make them mark the, identify each type of question. Is it a main idea question? Write an M on it. Is this about details? You need to recognize details, write a D on it, write an inference, write a letter I. So oftentimes students are learning to recognize what types of questions these are. And yes, it's helpful. It's very, very helpful. And then what was the other question? No, that was the question, right? Yes. So these are the types of questions. I just pulled it up on the screen again. Which I know everybody will have later on. So that's that. And then where am I up to? The last slide. Ta-da! Last thing, something that we also check with our students is recharge. Check in with your body, check in with your mind. We want to make sure that our kids are well, our kids are okay, our kids are happy. Yes, SHSAT is important. Yes, we teach them all these skills, but we also make sure that they are mentally okay too, so that they can move on with life. Get together with friends, of course, not the entire summer, but you know, towards the end, get your wiggles out, so that you're not trying to do that during the school year. And clean your room, start fresh in September. Have a clear desk, have a clean desk, get all of your supplies, and be in lunch position in September. Don't start your school year with like a whole messy desk, because it wouldn't work. And that's that. And then my last slide is my 30-second blurb. Ta-da! Our summer program. But I'll share this with everybody. Any questions that I didn't cover? I know we have other experts here, other SHSAT experts here. Please chime in if I went too fast or if I skipped anything.
There was a question. It's not, it's more about kind of selecting schools and applying for specialized high schools. And I actually do not know, because I have not applied yet, but when you're applying for specialized high schools, can you apply to more than one? And I see the answers from Ms. Ng that you will be like, you can apply to more than one, you need to rank them. And if you don't score high enough for the first, you could get your second choice, and so on and so forth. But actually, this is a good question. So even like, say you put the school for which you scored well into position 3 or 4, does that impact your admission into that school? Like, say, like you went for something like higher score schools first, and you didn't score that high on SHSAT, right? And you're only, like, say you put Brooklyn Latin into rank 3, and you did score enough for Brooklyn Latin, would you be admitted into Brooklyn Latin in that case? Or would you be competing with other?
Should I don't know, is anybody who wants to answer this question before I like chime in and give my 20 cents? Okay, yes, discipline is very important. I agree with Mr. Scheiner. So when I spoke with, and this was not that recently, it wasn't yesterday, but when I spoke with the Office of Assessment, somebody who works there, right? So the way that, and somebody correct me if this is wrong, but this is how they do it, right? So for example, if they have 9,000 students who took the SHSAT, right? They take all 9,000 applications, right? All 9,000 tests, and they put it in order, right? The highest being the first, all the way to the lowest, okay? Now, once they put that in order, they'll say, okay, here's the first one. Billy Bob scored perfect score. What did he put for number one? Oh my goodness, he has a perfect score. He can make it to STI, but for number one, he put Brooklyn Latin. He goes to Brooklyn Latin. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether they're not gonna say, oh, but he's eligible for STI. No, it's whatever he put. And then let's say they're up to number, I don't know, 35. Oh, Sammy score, whatever, X number. And then for number one, he put STI. No, it's not high enough for STI. Number two, not high enough. Three, oh, okay, let me see. Yes, there is room in that school. And then he did score high enough. So then he'll go to that school. So then they put them in order of what's the highest. And also they need to make sure that there's room in that school, right? So let's say STI has 283 seats, right? If they already filled it in, if the first 283 kids put STI as number one, and everything, and all of these 284 kids went to STI, the next student who scored just 1 point under, but still within the criteria, put STI as number one, no room for him or her, because those seats have been filled. So it's different criteria. So you need to they put it in order of grade, and then the school needs to have that amount of seats. And by luck, did everybody want to go to STI that year, or did everybody put Brooklyn Tech? Oh, ran out of Brooklyn Tech. No, we can't put you in Brooklyn Tech anymore, but we'll put you in STI because you put STI as number two. So if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was told by somebody who works for the assessment office.
Okay. Yes, and I also just, as we are on this slide, and there is one addition school, which is LaGuardia, which is kind of like a special case because you can apply for multiple talents there. But your portfolio that you'd be working on, it's not only for LaGuardia. There are plenty of talent schools, which also require that portfolio submission. Like Frank Sinatra is one of such schools. There is a whole kind of consortium actually of art schools where you would be submitting your portfolio. So again, this is high level. I did share a link with a lot of resources on research of schools, but if you're interested in talent, also please look there. Like we're only covering that at a high level here. Mr. Scheiner, you had a comment. Do you want to share it also, verbally, since we have 5
Okay, I'm
minutes?
sorry. I know it's a lot to read, put in the chat. No, one of the things that I've found over the years is that the kids are not used to being timed. They really don't have the discipline of pacing themselves. A lot of times we've had kids where they weren't able to get all their answers in because they waited to bubble at the end. Some of the kids will jump between ELA and math because they're given the freedom to answer whatever they want in any order, and they keep moving around, and that takes up a lot of time, where it's really, the goal is to collect points. So they should work on strength areas first. They have to find their strengths and hone in on those questions first, and then move around. And I think that's a problem kids have. They feel they never are given freedom. They're always taking tests like the state exams. Everything's very linear. So it's something new for them. So I think that's something they have to practice as well.
I agree. I think timing is really important. And I think one year a parent came and said, as a teacher, you guys have been very ambitious with the way that you're designing this program, because yes, we do want students to score as much as possible, but we give them all of the content that they need to know for the SHSAT. And we tell them, do not jump around if you don't have to, because for you to flip through the pages and say, which one did I skip? And then find the blank in your bubble sheet could be a disaster when they're nervous and they're still, oh my God, 10 minutes left. Where am I up to, right? But this is the beauty of mock exams, right? They can try it. They can say, okay, try this, try skipping around, try to do the questions that you know first, and then go back to the ones that you don't know and fill it in, or try to do all of them, right? So a lot of times kids will go from the very top all the way to the very end, right? Every day, every time they come in here, our math teacher gives them 5 questions, right? Gives them 5 questions as a quiz and says, okay, you guys have 10 minutes to do those 5 questions, right? 10 whole minutes, right? And then towards the end of the semester, they don't get 10 minutes. They get like 2.5 minutes. They get 3 minutes to do 5 questions, because it sort of like builds a stamina over time. It's sort of like puts fire under their chin, say, oh my goodness, you only have 2.5 minutes. Can you still handle it? Most students are able to because they've been doing it for so long, right? So oftentimes I tell the parents, yes, it's great, right? But our goal is to, hey, you start at number 1 and you go through 114. Because a lot of our students, they will skip a question on your test booklet, but they won't skip it on the answer sheet, right? And a lot of times they're erasing. I say, well, what are you doing? Oh, I don't remember which question I skipped. And then they're looking for every page. And it's like, okay, this strategy does not work for you. It might work for her, but not for you. So mock test gives them that freedom, right? Where they sort of like test out different strategies and say, okay, this works for me. So
yeah, it's my understanding also that there is this strategy of figuring out where are you stronger, ELA or math, right? And then actually invest more into that section than the other section, right? So with the other, you really just time yourself a lot stricter. And if you cannot, like if you really just run into a tough problem and you know that, you know, you just move faster, yes, I guess, in some cases, but you spend more time on where you really have a chance to figure out the right answer to the question. That's at least, you know, the advice Joyce Suflita was giving us earlier in the year when she did the presentation.
our poor kids, they're going through so much.
I
Yeah.
put a score calculator in that my kids love to play with, so they could see, well, if I get a 50 on this and a 46 on this, what is my scale score?
Oh,
So
that's a
just
great
add in the
one. Thank
chat
you
if
for
guys wanna-
sharing.
Yeah, because the kids play with that a lot.
Nice. I'm going to take that link as well. We will add it. Great. Oh, I cannot copy it from there. Ms. Singh, do you want to speak to it? You're welcome to.
Sure,
just
I
see
didn't
your-
want to interrupt anyone, so I was putting stuff into the chat. But in terms of the actual test itself, just to add on to what Mr. Scheiner was saying, in terms of bubbling in, also make sure students are used to the grid-in portions. Because I remember even going over that with the Barron's book, a lot of them get nervous on actual test day and they forget the basics of how to bubble in certain things. So making sure students understand, for example, certain questions you have to answer as a decimal or as a fraction in a certain way, like in simplest form. Going over those rules before the test, make sure that they feel comfortable on test day. Like I had one time proctoring a test, a student forgot how to bubble in their first name. They actually asked me, what do I put in here? And I said, you know, read the question again. Like they get so anxious on that day. And one of the things that they do also worry about is the amount of time. Like a lot of our students are used to finishing state exams early. And the fact that they have about 3 hours, they don't always know what to do with that time. So having that time set aside at home to practice, I always recommend they start off, it recommends like 90 minutes to take a portion, setting aside only maybe 80 minutes and seeing how far they get, and then decreasing that or increasing it and adjusting that time so that they know what works best for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, you know, as a parent, I also just want to add, you know, we really need to like not put that much emphasis on SHSAT, like to Ms. Chang's story, right? Various schools lead to various success. You know, honestly, Harvard is not the end of it all. Like, you know, I have a, you know, I personally went to University of Tennessee, you know, for my master's program, you know, because my husband was teaching there at the time. And like, I had a great time there. You know, this was, so it's, you know, it really just, so there are so many ways to success. You know, the specialized high school is not necessarily the, you know, the absolute, reason to also like ruin your life, your summer and the fall. So sure, prepare, you know, if you want to take it, do it, but please don't stress out too much about it. There are like so many great schools in the city, and that was also the point that Joyce made when she gave her presentation in the fall. she had twin daughters, and one went to Stuyvesant and the other one went to Murray, because she didn't score high on SHSAT. They both are in great colleges. Let me just leave it at that. So please don't stress out.
If I could just add into that too, I think one of the most important things to remember from this presentation is the research part. Really research the high schools that are out there, really look at your child and see where the best fit is for them. It may be a private school, it may be a parochial school, it may be a specialized high school, it may be your zone school. A lot of schools within New York City have so many wonderful programs that will lead you to just as good, if not better, of a college or a setting for your child, and in the years to come. In probably October or so, there will be a presentation done by our guidance counselors, and they will go over the whole process as far as the applications go and give you recommendations on how to make a balanced application. The specialized high schools are one portion of the application process, but then there's also the general app. On that general application, I will reiterate exactly what they're going to say. There's 12 slots, fill those 12 slots. Because if you leave blanks, you're going to get placed in schools that may not even be on your list. And the more options you have for your child, the better. And you want there to be a match where they're going to be happy. When you're thinking about the placements as well, too, going back to what was said earlier in the presentation, look at the distances from your home and the travel time, because remember, you want your child to have a well-rounded experience. It's not just an academic experience. You want there to be time for them to be engaged in activities after school, to join clubs, to be on sports teams if they're interested into that. And if they're going to be traveling very, very far, that's going to make life a little bit more difficult, and that will then in turn impact their academics. So those are just little things to think about. And I really like the research is key, especially this summer, research. And then if you're looking to do the specialized high school exam, if you haven't done so already, definitely start doing that over the summer as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, anything else to add? Any more anything from anyone else then? Any questions that we didn't go through? Wonderful. I will we will send out the slides. We'll also put them on PTO website, and I will also put the recording link on the PTO website. So if your kids weren't able to attend the session tonight, they can watch the recording. I think it's important that they actually own this process and not the parents own it for them, which I totally forgot because my son is not on this Zoom call tonight. So I'm glad we have the recording.
I'll send you the final one, and then I'll add on the link that was the last two links that was sent to us, the score calculator, and then the template to the I'll put it in the PDF and I'll send it to you. Do you want me to do that? I'll put it so that everything's in one place.
Wonderful.
Okay. So I'll put the link for the score calculator. I don't have the template. You can send it to me if you like, and then we'll put it in there. Anything else you want me to put in the presentation before you post it on the website?
No, I actually, so the template, it would be from Mr. Scheiner if he has one, right? That's what we're talking about, the questions template. Mr. Scheiner, will you be able to share it or not? I understand that this is, from.
Yeah, it caught me a little off guard. I'll have to look for it in my docs, but I could put it on my Google Classroom, or I could email it to you.
Yeah, email is absolutely fine. Yes, and I will then forward it to Ms. Chang. Wonderful. Okay. Yes, so we will share the materials tomorrow, probably not tonight. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Thanks for
Marina.
Yes.
I think it looks like there's a question in the chat about special education seats and applications.
I was just actually typing back, but I'll answer it really quickly. So when you go on to My Schools, they will list available seats for students who are general education and students with disabilities. And it's basically based off of the same criteria, but there is a list for students with disabilities as well as a list for students who are general education. So the application process would follow that suit. As far as, and Mr. Blosser, if you'd like, at some point, I could go over the process a little bit more with you in detail and speak specifically to your child as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Forsyth.
You're very welcome.
Thanks so much, everyone. Ms. Chang, thank you so much for the presentation. Very informative, and for all of your support.
Pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Chang.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.